Something woke me up again. I don't know what it was, but when my eyes opened, I looked out again and she wasn't there. The balcony door was about 12 to 14 inches. I noticed her cigarettes weren't out there, and the shirt she was wearing that night was laying on the chair in her room. The first thing I'm thinking is she changed her clothes and went up, getting a cup of coffee, taking pictures because we were coming into port.
Hey there, curious mind and headline hunters. Welcome to another episode of Talk, Listen, and Discuss. Now, here's where I'm going to get even more genuine with you all. So I started doing these YouTube videos because I think they're fun and I love being able to channel my creativity. And I also like looking into the analytics, the marketing side of it. It's just very fascinating and interesting to me. So I started taking deep dives a while back on how would you put a video together, how do you edit it, blah, 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 all those different things out there, right? And it takes a long time to edit videos. It takes even not as long to come up with ideas for content. It comes to a point though, however, you're like constantly churning out content on paper or, your phone for notes, anything like that. You're just trying to find a way to capture it so you don't forget it. And some of the things that you do early on when you're making your videos is you're messing around trying to figure out what's going to work, not just for you, because you want to do something that you like and that you enjoy and that brings up sincerity and passion and strengths in you, meaning strengths as in what you're talking about, because you don't want to give something flat or uninspirational, boring. You don't want to do all this work just to only be talking to yourself, because let's face it, you could just talk to the wall and not have to worry about editing afterwards. And that's not really what we want to do. I think most of the YouTubers out there who are doing this monetarily did start off with wanting to present something that was entertaining, that they found entertaining, and they wanted to find their people. And that's what I'm doing. I find current events entertaining, especially celebrity gossip, especially true crime. Just things that are happening in the world fascinate me. And I've always been that person. I've always been a current event person, celebrity gossip person. I just love to talk about these things. I'll find something I think is a hot topic and I'll talk about it. Not just because it's a hot topic. It has to be a hot topic that I'm really interested in. And there's a lot of them. But it's just a way to plant that first hook to let you know that you're welcome, because you're always welcome on my channel. You're always welcome to just come into the room with me and be able to give me your comments, your ideas, your feedback. And trust me, I've been on X and I have had not really flattering comments come back to me on things that I've either posted or I replied to. You just have to understand that that's part of it, right? You have to understand that's part of it. So if you can't take that negativity that can come with the positivity, then you probably shouldn't start it at all. I'm telling you this is just to give you behind the scenes on what goes, I think, through most creators' minds on when they're first developing YouTube presentations. It's that it comes from a place that really interests them. They're trying to find their people, and they also want to deliver a good quality video. Yes, they're going to mess up. I'm messing up a lot. I know I am, but I'm not taking it personally anymore like I used to. And, a long time ago when I was starting off things, I would take things personally. I don't do that anymore because I know I'm still learning. And every time I learn something new, I like to just keep building on that and see how it goes. So learning how to read YouTube analytics and bringing in the intros, the endings, and how to fix the middles, just stuff like that. It's a lot of work, but it's also very entertaining, especially when you know that it's in the people who you really want to connect with. It's in their best interest for you to deliver something that's entertaining and well put together. So one of the things I've been struggling with is that hook. And if you've watched one or two of my videos, or dare I dream 3 of my videos, you probably noticed I try to play around with that intro. And I was like, I don't like it. There's just something, it's not me. It's not catching me. It's not hooking me. So more likely it's not hooking anybody out there. What am I doing here is something that I was asking. I know I want to entertain, but exactly what does that look like? And then it came to me, of course, where it shouldn't have come to me while I was driving down the highway. Yeah, you really should be focused on the road, right? But that's where a lot of my thoughts, and I think most people's thoughts come into their heads is when you're driving down the highway. And I thought, what I'm doing is I am saying out loud what I think people like me are thinking, and I'm putting it out there, but in a way that is very, I believe, clean, and I hope it's clean, because I don't want to be somebody that just comes out here and talks trash with a filthy mouth. That's just not me. I'm not saying that I won't have some kind of negative commentary, descriptives. If people can be good, they can be bad. That's just my thinking. If people can be pretty, they can also be ugly, inside, outside. It's just, these are what I call observations. I'm allowed to make observations. So I came up with a tagline. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. And it goes something like this. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to my channel, Talk, Listen, and Discuss, where I say out loud what you're thinking about current events, but in a clean and entertaining way, or something like that. And so when you see me start this video again, I'm gonna have fine-tune that. But when I do, let me know what you think about that one. And if you've gotten this far and heard this, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my creativity come out in a YouTube video, because I really am creating this for you. I really want to connect, and I really want us to have a good time talking about current events. Thank you. Now on to the episode for today. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Talk, Listen, and Discuss, where I say out loud what you're thinking about current events in a clean and entertaining way, using straight talk and common sense. Are you ready to talk about today's topic? Let's go. So before I get into my next topic, I wanted to briefly talk about 3 current events that happened, some updates. Brian Kohberger was sentenced today. And before his sentencing from the judge, the family members were able to get up there and tell him everything they thought of him, which is, I 100% understand that. It's something that the family needs to get done. It's something that the family needs to get out into the open. And I'm so happy that they're getting to do that. One of the things that they said was that he was perfectly average. And I was like, they know. They are spot on that this guy, the reason why he killed those beautiful 4 college students, and they were fresh, young, pretty, handsome, had everything in front of them. And there's no doubt in my mind that they would have moved forward with their lives, doing joyful things, doing productive things. And he could see that. To me, this comes down to, why did he kill them? It wasn't a preoccupation to have a perfect crime committed. I don't believe that. I believe in the biblical standard, where in the 10 Commandments, God tells us not to covet. And there is a reason for that, because God knows that coveting leads to murder. Brian Kohberger was so jealous of those 4 beautiful college students. To him, they represented what he could never be, which is anything but perfectly average. Brian Kohberger, you deserve every bad thing that happens to you, because you took away loved ones, friends, and really positive, productive members of a community. And for that, you don't deserve any mercy. Another thing I wanted to talk about was a missing student from, what is that city? La Crosse, Wisconsin, the graduate student, a very young lady who went missing in the middle of a morning around 3 o'clock in the morning, leaving a bar to walk home. Now, it is awful. There is a mother that is struggling today. Her heart is breaking. They're going on day 4 trying to find her. So far, all they have are these kind of facts. She left the bar. She was walking home. She dropped her phone, or somehow her phone was found 3
quarters of a mile away from her home, which was off the waterfront, the Mississippi River. And this sounds a lot like that story of the young man that went missing in Nashville, Tennessee. And days later, they would end up finding him. I think it was almost even weeks. They would end up finding his body in the river. And this story sounds a lot like that. Now, I hope that that's not the outcome. I sincerely hope that that's not the outcome. But friends, not that I want her friends to feel guilty, friends, community members with good hearts, keep an eye out when you see vulnerable people walking around at night, because you could be saving a life. Even if it was you just picking up the phone and calling the police and say, hey, we see a young lady walking alone in the middle of the night. Could you do a check? Anything like that, because that may help more than you know that person staying alive, staying healthy, and a mother, father, brother, sister, family from grieving. My heart goes out to that family, and I'm going to keep them in my prayers, and I hope you keep them in yours. And if you need the family's name, the last name is Heinz, and the graduate student is Elliotte Heinz, young lady, believe she's 22, and she has disappeared, and it's been 4 days. Keep them in your prayers. And then lastly, I was on my way home from dropping my daughter off at her driving course, and I heard on the radio that there was a meeting about climate change today. And over the history of time, our climate has changed. And I understand the urgency and the frustration and the fear. I love this world. I do. I get sick to my stomach when I see how many landfills we have, when I see junk off the side of the streets, when I'm going down the back way and I see all these plots of land that have been abandoned and have nothing but junk and old metal and cars and debris just stacking up. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to see all that. Then, if you really sit down and think about it, all the chemicals and pollutions we're eating, that we're surrounded by every day, and that we are using to keep our creature comforts. So this is coming from the AP News, and it is from the UN's top court, and it says, UN's top court says failing to protect planet from climate change could violate international law. Now, the reporter was saying how it's highly likely that this meeting and the outcome of this meeting is going to be very influential in many countries, and how they begin to regulate for climate change initiatives. Of course, the biggest offenders on their list are China and the United States. I'm not going to debate this issue. It doesn't take rocket scientists to understand that us collectively as a race, the human race, we're all guilty of taking this beautiful world that we were given and not being good stewards of it, all of us. If you have your air conditioner on, even if you're taking public transportation, anything in between, you are part of the problem too. I am. I'm a part of the problem. I know this. But when you talk about regulating, what is that regulation going to look like? Even the most ardent person who is up in arms against anything that could be hurting the climate would find it hard to put in practice to restrict themselves to the level that we would all need to in order for us to even make a difference. That would mean don't use your AC, don't use your heater, don't cook with electricity, don't cook with gas. It would mean, or at least don't cook as often, don't wash your clothes as often, don't take a bath as often, don't fill up your car with gas as often, don't drive as often. There's so many things that people don't think about. There's products you wouldn't be able to buy, soaps, shampoos, certain foods, petroleum-based products that we're so reliant on. And even if you're not relying, or you don't believe you have a high reliability on petroleum products, you would be surprised the petroleum products that are needed just to churn out the things that don't have petroleum in them. So it's all a chain. We're all addicted. And my question to you, and it's just a question, how far are you willing to go to save the earth? What creature comforts are you willing to give up that are now in your mind? You don't even see them as creature comforts. Now it's your standard of living. Okay. So moving on. So today, what I wanted to talk about is I watched over the weekend a documentary with my husband and my daughter, and it's on Netflix. And you may have heard it because I know it was in the top 10. And it's the story about Amy Bradley. I'm getting the background from unilad.com. I'm going to go ahead and read to you some of this background because they presented it very well. And I'm going to give you commentary. Now, when I was watching the documentary, first of all, it was a well done documentary. It wasn't perfect, but it was well done. I didn't even know about the story. And I listen to a lot of true crime. I don't know if I'm just not remembering it or I really just never heard this story. Either way, I was able to learn it now and get to know more about the behind the scenes, the investigation, some theories, that kind of stuff. But I could even tell just by watching it that there was a lot of things they left out. And I found on the internet, of course, especially in this article, a lot of things that weren't presented, but as well as there was just something. There always is with me. There is just something that I could not put my finger on, and I'm going to share that with you here in a little bit, but I'm not saying it's a aha moment, but it definitely is something that I think is either wasn't presented in anything I found or just wasn't looked into at all. So before I get there, let me get you here with some background. Again, it's coming from unilad.com. Amy was just 23 years old when she went missing on a Royal Caribbean cruise in 1998. Amy had embarked on the holiday with her family, her mom Iva, dad Ron, and brother Brad, when she went missing from her room after a night out. The baffling case is the subject of a new Netflix documentary, Amy Bradley is Missing, which drops on the platform of July 16th. From conspiracy theories to disturbing images and witness testimonies, the true crime documentary delves into what happened to Amy and how her family has never given up hope in finding her alive almost 3 decades later. That's a long time. And you'll probably hear it when I read it again, but what I found really intriguing and sad even is that this family, that's their everyday for 30 years. They go to sleep thinking about the case. They wake up thinking about the case. They are still actively searching for their daughter. And that is their everyday. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at my day, and I couldn't even imagine that kind of experience filling up my day every day for 30 years. That is heartbreaking. Amy is a woman from Virginia who was reported missing nearly 27 years ago after she went missing on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. The ship departed from Puerto Rico on March 21st, 1998, before calling at Aruba. It was traveling to Curacao. They were saying it somehow. We'll go with Curacao. I wanted to say Caraco, but I'm pretty sure it's like something like Curacao or Sirocao. I'm sorry. When Amy went missing in the early hours of March 24th. What was Amy doing the night missing? Amy had been out with her family on the evening she went missing. While there have been various theories about what happened to Amy, we know that she had said goodnight to her parents before staying out with her brother following a pool party and a limbo contest, which, by the way, he won. That's what I learned from that documentary. I said I love you, she said. I love you too, Mom. I'll see you in the morning, Iva recalled in the documentary. Brad explained the pair had been at the disco dancing and listening to music when he decided to go back to their room. Both of them were young. The parents went to bed early, and I think it was about midnight, so not too early. And then, of course, they were younger. They were partying. They stayed out later. I went out on the balcony about 5 minutes later. Amy came back to the room. We were both finishing our drinks, hanging out and talking about the next day, he said. She brought up that someone she had been talking to and dancing with during the course of the evening made a physical pass at her. She told me it was the best Sorry, she told me it was the bass player from the band. Brad explained that Amy said she wasn't feeling good and had decided to stay out on the balcony while he went to bed. Now, she did tell her brother that, but in the documentary, he did say she just mentioned it. She didn't make a big deal out of it. She just mentioned it to him. Later on in the documentary and in a subsequent article that I read, the guy that they're talking about that she was dancing with, the bass player, his name is Yellow. We'll probably come to that again. He says that he just danced with her for a couple of dances because that's all they had time for. I'm not saying he didn't make a pass, but that's his story, that he went out there to dance with her because they had some time during the session where he could go on the dance floor and dance with the girl, with her. Brad explained that Amy had said she wasn't feeling too good and had decided to stay out on the balcony while he went to bed. At 5:30, Ron, that's the dad, woke up and saw that Brad was in bed. Noticing Amy wasn't also there, he spotted her legs on one of the lounge chairs out on the balcony. So she was, sprawled out on one of the lawn chairs and she had passed out there. So the dad could see that she was out there because he saw her legs. Something woke me up again. I don't know what it was, but when my eyes opened, I looked out again and she wasn't there. The balcony door was about 12 to 14 inches. I noticed her cigarettes weren't out there, and the shirt she was wearing that night was laying on the chair in her room. The first thing I'm thinking is she changed her clothes and went up, getting a cup of coffee, taking pictures because we were coming into port. Now, this is what got me on here. She was able to get up, allegedly or hypothetically. This is what the dad thinks, that she opened the door. He did see that her cigarettes weren't there. So in my mind, he's thinking she took her cigarettes with her. And then shirt she was wearing that night was laying on the chair in her room. Now, in the documentary, he says that she had a white shirt underneath that. I believe that shirt that was on the chair was yellow. I could be misremembering. But the shirt that she was wearing over the white shirt was laying on the chair. So she had, in his mind, taken her cigarettes. Maybe she was wearing the shirt that was underneath the shirt that was laying down on the chair. There's my cat. Maybe she walked out just wearing that shirt. I don't know, but that's kind of where I got that that's what he was thinking. And from there, she walked up to get some coffee because, she was hungover, she was awake. Maybe she went to go get some coffee. Ron left the room, again, Ron's the dad, left the room to go looking for his daughter, which is when the family's nightmare began. Okay, so in the documentary, they go on to present us with the footage from the night before when they're dancing at the disco, and you can see Amy is clearly dancing with the bass player. They call him Yellow, but his name, do they have it here? Alistair Douglas is his real name. And they were able to capture that that was the last surveillance image that they were able to get of her with any timestamp, and that could confirm her whereabouts. That was the last visual, but the last digital confirmation, I believe, or electronic confirmation, is when she went to her room and she used her cabin key card. They got the time that she got in, and of course, that's how they got the time that she entered the room, is when she made it back to her room, a little after her brother did, and she joined him out on the patio. What are the theories surrounding Amy's disappearance? There are so many theories about what happened to Amy during the early hours of March 24th. Some believe she could have fallen overboard, and I will tell you that with these theories, I still believe that one. And I'm going to get to that here in a little bit, along with something that, stuck out at me that I haven't seen anywhere else. While the possibility that she jumped into the water has also been explored. However, her family believes she's still alive. So yes, they did mention that maybe she committed suicide. We find out in the documentary that she had broken up with her girlfriend because she had kissed another girl and she told her girlfriend about it. So they were they had broken up, and it really had affected her. She was really anguished over it. And she had left a letter to her ex-girlfriend, and it sounded like it could be a little bit depressive and that she wanted to hurt herself. I mean, you could read it that way if you wanted to read it that way, or you could just read it as somebody with a heartbreak who was being very poetic. Either way, that was what helped, perpetuate the theory that she may have just jumped, because instead of an actual falling, that she would have just jumped over. But the family dismisses that, and I get why, because she really didn't seem suicidal. And I know they always say that, people don't want to believe that their loved ones would commit suicide, but I do think in this case that it's the truth. I don't think from everything that I've read, from the things that they presented, it doesn't seem like she'd want to commit suicide. In fact, if anything, I think she would want to go back and try to win the girl back. That's what I would have thought. This is down to both a gut feeling, the family believing she's still alive, and a number of witnesses who have since come forward with sightings of a woman they believe to be Amy. Two women believe they saw Amy and Yellow is that bass player, at somewhere between 5:30 and 6 a.m. in a glass elevator to the nightclub. Then they claim to have seen Yellow walk past them without Amy on the top deck around 15 minutes later. Despite the claims, the timings could not be confirmed. There was no surveillance camera. There was nothing. This was long before cell phones. This was long before cameras everywhere, things like that. They did have some cameras, but not to the degree we have now. The one thing I do remember that they mentioned in the documentary is that they were able to see when Yellow made it into his cabin. The only thing they don't know is when he would have left, and they don't know that with anybody because, of course, you only get the timestamp when you're using your key to get into the room, not when you're leaving it. And so they do know, and I believe that he entered his room around 1 is what I want to say that they said. If it's the wrong time, I'll insert it later in the video. I'll put it up at top and tell you what the time was. But I want to say that he was in his room somewhere, and it definitely was, he was not punching back into his room any time after 5:30 or 6. That doesn't mean that what they saw didn't happen. I'm just saying that there is a conflict in timestamps and what they saw, and there's no visual confirmation or any other kind of digital or electronic confirmation that can place them, Yellow and Amy, together. I don't know why. I just don't think that I believe that the women really saw Yellow or that they saw Yellow with her. I don't believe that. And I believe that even if they did see that, because they had been up partying up until the wee morning, and they even say that in the documentary, I don't know how they would have been looking for the time. Unless they were wearing watches or were just actively looking at their watches, I don't know where they got that time from. Maybe it was in the documentary and I'm not remembering it, but that's why I just like, okay, we'll take that one with a grain of salt. They then claim to have seen Yellow walk past them without Amy, sorry, I'm reading this again, on the top deck around 15 minutes later. Despite the claims, the timings could not be confirmed. Meanwhile, Yellow was interviewed by the FBI and later passed a polygraph test. I know they're not admissible, but I could see being nervous taking a polygraph test and still failing it. But it's harder for me to believe the opposite, that you could be totally a culprit and pass it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. We know it happens, but Yellow does not come across as a person who could be cool under pressure. He doesn't seem like a mastermind that could do that. That's why I'm saying that. During the documentary, his daughter, Amica, rings her father and asks him about Amy's disappearance. So Amica is Yellow's daughter, and they built this up a little bit too much, I think, in the documentary, where she calls and she has him on the phone. He doesn't know he's being recorded, and she's asking him, like, what really happened, Dad? That kind of thing. And the reason why she feels there's something there is because when he came back from a cruise, maybe even, I think it was that cruise, her mom, his wife at the time, found in his suitcase pictures of women. Now, the way she described them, made me think that they were the pictures, and this is something I wasn't clear on and something I haven't been able to really find anywhere, and maybe because it's just recently been in the documentary. She says in the documentary, they mention that Amy's cruise photo, you know how you go and take those formal photos, with the formal photos with the photographers, or you take photos with photographers on the cruise ship, and then you can go and find them in the kiosk and you can purchase them. Well, you know how they also have them just there so you can see them, because if you see them, you're more likely to buy them. That her photo sample was taken. They couldn't find it. I don't know if he had stolen photos like that and that was in his suitcase. That's something I would like to have clarity on, because then that would give me cause to believe that he was involved. I would have more certainty. I could be better convinced that he was involved if they said he stole the cruise ship photos. That would convince me a lot more that he was involved. But for now, having photos of random women in his suitcase, I don't know if that means that he was involved in some kind of trafficking conspiracy is coming up here soon, that he would find the photos so that he would get the photos so he could find the girls that he would potentially kidnap for trafficking. But that would be something more interesting to really delve into, I think. He says they brought the FBI on immediately, and then he said to me that they're trying to find this girl, and I was seen dancing with her. Everybody that had anything to do with cleaning her room, serving her drinks, we were grounded. So the FBI comes in, the staff is not allowed to leave their rooms until they are allowed to by the FBI. And so he was grounded into his cabin until they could see him and interview him. He goes on to say, when they realized nothing was involved, we continued to work, and I continued to work on the cruise ship until 2 years later. 6 months later, an eyewitness named David Carmichael claimed to see Amy on a beach in Curacao. I see 3 people walking towards us. There's one guy, a girl in the middle, and then another guy who looked like he was from the island. As they came closer to me, she comes right up to me. I see a tattoo that looks like a Tasmanian devil, he recalled. So Amy had a Tasmanian devil tattoo. She was just about to say something to me when the person who was on the inside comes up. He stared at me, doesn't say a word. He motions her away. If he had not stared at me, I would have forgotten everything. I think about this every day. Amy is known to have a tattoo of the Tasmanian devil on her shoulder. I don't know if it was that shoulder I just pointed to. I just did that for dramatic effect. Another sighting was reported by a man named Bill Hefner, who was in the Navy, when he says he saw Amy at a brothel in Curacao. Bill explained that a woman who claimed to be Amy had told him she left the ship to buy drugs. She said, "They're holding me against my will. I need help. I owe $200 and I can't get my freedom." I've heard all kinds of stories from working girls. I've heard it before. The Navy man says he's heard all these stories from all kinds of working stories. He had been to Thailand. He had been to Singapore, overseas, places like that. That's when she said, "My name is Amy Bradley." Then she told me that she got off that ship. Then she told me she got off that ship and she left on her own because she was going to score drugs. And now I'm stuck here with these guys. So he's telling everyone right now that she got off the ship to score drugs, that she left on her own and she got off the ship to score drugs. Bill explained he left the bar shortly afterwards. Fast forward to 2005. This is the article. And the family received a series of images of a woman from somebody who claimed the woman in the photo was Amy. Now, I will share this photo with you. This photo, according to the article and the documentary, the images were allegedly from a sex website and showed a woman posing on a bed. After having the photos forensically analyzed, experts came to the conclusion that the woman in the photos could have been Amy. Around the same time, a third eyewitness named Judy Maurer, Maurer, claims she saw Amy in Barbados after they popped in a souvenir shop while on a cruise holiday. Now, if you saw the documentary, let me know what you thought about Judy, because I didn't find her credible. I was watching with my husband and my daughter. They didn't find her credible either, especially my daughter. She's all of 15, and there was just something about Judy. First of all, if she asked all the questions that she remembers asking, she's like the nosiest person ever that you never want to be in the bathroom with, the person that is next to the sink and can't help herself from talking. So if she asked all those questions, she was very annoying. But that she could remember all the questions she asked is kind of sus. But not only that, it just didn't seem real. It just didn't seem realistic the way she presented the story, in my humble opinion. Let me know if you found her credible. Explaining she needed to use the restroom, Judy said she had been in the bathroom when she heard some people come in. There was a man by the door talking. I heard him say, "The deal is 11 o'clock, and I warn you, you better be ready to go," recalled Judy. I didn't know what it was, but all of a sudden the man left. I opened the door, and there was a young woman standing by the sinks. She had an awful look on her face, kind of crying. I walked over the sink and I said, "Hi, are you on vacation here?" Judy said she asked the woman her name and claimed she told her it was Amy. Judy only realized she could have encountered Amy when she saw her family appearing on the Dr. Phil show weeks later. Nearly 30 years on from the day she went missing, Amy's family are still searching and say they will never give up hope. They have kept all her belongings, including her beloved car. They kept her car, and it's a car they don't even have anymore. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the car, but if, again, I'll insert it into this video if I can find it. It was a car they no longer have anymore, is what I remember. It was a sweet looking car, and it looks still brand new. And they showed in the documentary, they still have it waiting for her when she returns. Today is the 9,758th day we have been working to get Amy, said Iva, when this article came out. We will never give up on her. In the morning, we wake up and say, "Maybe today." And then we get ready to go to bed at night. We have a little kiss for Amy and say, "Maybe tomorrow." Well, Ron added, "We keep her car in the garage at home. We keep it shined up, and you can tell it's very shiny. Looks very pretty. It's going to be pristine when she gets here, and she'll get to drive it again." So Amy Bradley is Missing is available to watch on Netflix now. If you have any information about Amy Bradley, you can contact the family's tip line by calling 1-804-789-4269, 1-804-789-4269, or by emailing amybradleyismissing@gmail.com. Okay, so I'm the kind of person that when I read these articles, when I see the documentaries, I'm like, what is something that was there that I just didn't hear? And I went through Amy's routine. So her dad says he saw her out there on the patio of their cabin in a lawn chair. He heard something, and then she's not there anymore. But he does see that her shoes were left there with the table pressed up against the glass and two chairs. And I do believe the table being pressed up against the glass is also a contributing factor to why some people believe she may have jumped. But I think because her shoes were left there, and yes, I know that her cigarettes were missing, and her yellow shirt was on the chair, I think she woke up because think about this. Okay, let me back up. I'm sorry. I know I'm doing this. So, if she had left the room, which they have no way of knowing if she did or didn't based on the technology of that day, and I'm pretty sure unless there's a camera in your hallway on a cruise ship now, that's the only way they would be able to know when you left your room. The technology they had then, they didn't have that. They didn't have cameras in that hallway, and when you left the room, they didn't track that. There was no electronics timestamp. But her shoes, there was another pair of shoes they didn't mention that she could have worn. I don't see anywhere in any articles I've read, anything that any of her shoes were missing. So she didn't get her shoes. So did she walk out barefoot if she left the room? And why did she lay that shirt over the chair? Was it soiled and she didn't want to wear it? Did it stink and she didn't want to wear it? Those are the kinds of things that I look for. How did that shirt look? Why do they think she left it? And if her cigarettes were missing, again, she would take her cigarettes but not go get her shoes. She left the patio door open so she didn't have to reopen it to get through and get her shoes. And was she known to walk around barefoot? Did the girls who claim to have seen Yellow and her walk by, in the glass elevator, did they happen to notice if she was walking barefoot? And maybe it was too far for them to see. And if it was too far for them to see her shoes, I get that. But could it have also been too far for them to see if it really was Amy? Now, Amy did have a distinctive look. I'm not talking about purple hair distinctive, but she did have short blonde hair, or I believe it was blonde, or dirty brown, dirty blonde, something like that. It was short. But I would like to know if they could have really, at the time, if they said, yes, it was her because she had these features. They never mention that. They say it was her, but they never say, we saw Yellow with this girl and she looked like this. I never heard that, nor have I read it. And it could be one of those things that they left out. And I'm going to get to a major thing they left out here in a little bit. The thing that I caught was, would she be the type of person, hungover or not, that would take her cigarettes but walk out barefoot on a cruise ship? And then what was the possibility that she went to get her cigarettes, she went back out to the patio and she started smoking only to get really sick, and instead of getting sick inside the cabin, she thought, well, maybe because when you're tired and you don't feel good, but you still have some kind of semblance of being thoughtful, who's to say she didn't get on that table to throw up over the barrier, to throw up over the barrier and didn't fall over, and that's what woke up her dad. She didn't have to necessarily jump for suicidal reasons. Maybe she got sick and didn't want to go in it was a one bed, it was a one it was a 2-bedroom cabin. The beds were in there. They had to share beds. So if you've been on a cruise ship, how small those rooms are. Maybe she didn't want to go into the bathroom and throw up and wake up everybody. Maybe in her mind, she was like, you know what? I'll get on top of this table so that I can get sick over the barrier. Maybe that's what happened. And her dad heard the impact or heard something happen, and that's what woke him up. So was Amy the kind of person that would take her cigarettes, leave a soiled shirt over the chair, but not take her shoes to walk around a cruise ship where plenty of people have walked across that floor with soggy sandals or just shoes that they have gotten dirty from being here and there and everywhere? The mind wanders. Okay, so something that they did not present in this show is, let me see, I'll find it. From LAD Bible, fans shocked to discover Netflix left out massive Amy Bradley details as brother speaks out on documentary. So in this new Netflix newest documentary, according to this article, about the disappearance of Amy Bradley, remains third in the worldwide charts a week from its release date. But some viewers have been shocked to discover that a major detail was left out of the story. I'm going to fast forward this because a lot of this is stuff that I've already told you. One major aspect left out is that, and they're talking about the Reddit site for this Amy Bradley missing story. One user posted to the r/true crime discussion subreddit praising the documentary. However, one popular comment retorted saying, I think they meant commenter, I disagree about the doc being fantastic. A good documentary would look at all scenarios. These guys obviously had a favorite narrative to sell. This led to a comment agreeing saying, yep, and tons left out, like the PI scamming them, which points to the family looking desperate for answers. Another commenter agreed, yes, I couldn't believe they left such a big piece out. This referred to Frank Jones, a man who claimed to be a former U.S. Navy SEAL, in an email to the Bradley family in 1999, so just a year after the disappearance. He claimed to have a team of ex-Navy SEALs and ex-Army Rangers at his disposal, a crack team who could aid him in finding Amy. This came after rumors that she had been trafficked to Curacao, I can't say this, by Colombian mercenaries, and so the family leapt at the opportunity for someone to take a team to the Caribbean and search for her, with the FBI investigation making little progress. Jones was indeed a fraud, however, taking regular payments from the Bradley family and claiming that he needed more funds to surveil the island and keep tabs on her. He claimed he had men who had seen her regularly, even sending a fake photograph to the family and telling them he was set to carry out an operation to save Amy and that they should await his call. One of Jones's men, who he had been paying to surveil a random house in Curacao, overheard the phone call and informed the Bradley family, who had been awaiting a phone call saying their daughter was alive and coming home. In the time he spent conning the Jones, he received $24,444 of their personal savings and $186,416 from a fund set up by a nonprofit called the Nation's Missing Children's Organization. Joan was found guilty of mail fraud in 2022 and was sentenced to 5 years in prison and to repay the money. Her father, Ron, later said, "If there's a chance, what else do you do? If it was your child, what would you do? So I guess we took a chance and I guess we lost." Leaving out the detail was a major omission, according to viewers, and I 100% agree. That would have been a story that I believe would have added a lot more depth to the documentary. Again, the documentary is good, but when you watch it, there is a feeling that it was lacking in some substance. Amazing they had left that out. He built them out close to $100,000. A lot of the pictures of Amy were ones he manipulated. They did eventually prosecute him. Real dirtbag, that guy. For sure, a real dirtbag. They're scum of the earth. And when things like this happen, you do have all these nefarious characters come out from the woodwork, and they are 100% wanting to scam you for money. They get you at your weakest, and they know that when it comes to your children, you'll do just about everything. It's despicable. As of now, the FBI still has the case open. The judge did declare Amy dead. And that photograph that I was telling you about earlier, that's in the documentary and you see in other articles, most recently, it was clarified that while those experts did believe that that could be Amy in that photograph, that they can't claim that it is. They are not willing to say that it is Amy in that photograph. And when I read this story about all these photos that he was generating of Amy, I'm wondering if one of those isn't the photographs that just happened to be out there, because this was emailed to the family. And if you see the photo, it's not great. It's not a great photo. What I've been able to learn about FBI photo matching reliability is that it is not accurate when it comes to grainy photos. Here it says the FBI has analyzed these photos, but public statements indicate they have not confirmed any photo match to Amy. It is important to note that photo resemblance alone is rarely treated as definitive evidence. I'll learn to read one day. It must be backed by other evidence, DNA, fingerprints, witness corroboration. FBI facial comparison methods are among the best in the world, but when it comes to older, unclear photos, the confidence level is lower. For a high-profile case like Amy Bradley's, the FBI would likely run multiple verification methods before making any conclusions, and that's exactly where we are now. No conclusion on those photos. It's inconclusive according to the FBI. They say it could be. They did have some markers that show that it could be. They got her ear and her chin and cheekbones, and apparently these are things that do not change as we age. But knowing that photos have been manipulated and that the photos, the lesser the quality is, the more likely you just can't have a high percentage of certainty when you are saying that is that person. What do I believe? Again, what I said before, I find it more believable that she went overboard. I know a lot of people hate that. There's a lot of people out there that really hate that theory. And I'm telling you, it's the one that could really make sense from what I know until they start letting out more information or until I stumble across it, because it could still be there and I'm not finding it. But it doesn't make sense to me that she would take her cigarettes but not take her shoes, that she would have the insight enough to leave the door cracked and take off her shirt, but not think, okay, you know what? I could go get my shoes real quick, carrying them in my hand and leave. I don't have to wake up anybody that way. And for her to go get coffee about that time, a lot of older people on cruises. In fact, if you see some of the footage from that cruise, you can see a lot of older people on that cruise. And they would definitely be like her dad out there wanting to get coffee. Did any people see her around there wanting to get coffee? Did she really directly just wake up and within 30 minutes decide, okay, I'm going to take my cigarettes, I'm going to leave my shirt, I'm not going to take my shoes, but I'm going to go try to score drugs? That seems like there's a lot more gaps there than I'm going to go get my cigarettes, go outside and smoke, start feeling sick because you're on a cruise ship and you just drank to high heaven and now you're not feeling good. You don't want to go wake up anybody. And so instead of throwing up in the room, you decide to like just hurl over the barrier and accidentally fall over. And that's the noise her dad heard. That's what I think. I don't know if that's even plausible. I looked up some things that seems plausible, but what do you think? Are you more likely to believe that somehow from the nightclub she was, and this could happen, she could have been stuffed into a musician's box. They have quite the, drum sets and stuff where set boxes where they could have put her in there and taken her off the boat. I don't know what kind of scrutiny they were under leaving the boat, looking at their boxes and stuff and luggage, and the mind wanders, right? I don't know about that. But is it likely that she would have gone on a glass elevator, gone to the nightclub? Why would the drugs be there? And why would he come back, but she would stay there? Why would he choose to leave her in the nightclub? It's just so much there. There's so many opportunities either to be seen, to be discovered, because they did end up having a search at some point. Of course, people were allowed to leave the cruise, were allowed to leave the ship once they docked, even though they were saying, do you think that's a great idea? People can be taking stuff off, and she could be among that. Yes, there is that, and that is a likely scenario, but you would still have somebody seeing something because it takes something to jog a memory. We did see Yellow. Apparently Yellow, a lot of people were able to remember him. He was in the disco. He was on the dance floor, and that the people of the disco would be leaving to go do their excursions. You would think that somebody would have said, oh yeah, and we saw the bass player and he had a big old box with him or something like, I don't know. Either way, to me, the other scenario just seems to have less gaps and be more probable than the whole complicated scenario of hiding her on a cruise ship and taking her off the cruise ship even at that time. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Thanks for sticking with me. Happy to see you here, and I'll be happy to see you again. Have a great day. Have a great week. I will be working on finalizing that first episode on the William F. Kennedy trial. Did the jury get it right? And we will be focusing on the women. Talk to you later. Bye. God bless you. Bye.